So from April until now, which is now we're coming up in May, so almost a year, and about a month, I've gone to 3 different FedEx private contractors stations and had 4 different contract jobs with FedEx for the line haul. 2 of them were wild card situations, and then 2 of them were line haul, and that's what I was going to discuss this time. The line haul was the very first one that I did out of Lewiston, Idaho. I went to from trip, 2 trips that they had available. I've done both. I've done the trip from Lewiston 835 to 989 Yakima. Or 979 rather, I believe. And that would be like 214, where they had like this layover period before the package to go back dedicated back to Lewiston was ready, and that was pretty good. And then in the same station, I was able to switch with another driver and go from the switch point 71535 is the, I believe, the station ID. It's all done over the phone, where you log in and you click arrived. It's funny that they have the camera, because you may have to do it while you're doing it, or it'll say geofence anyways. I would do that trip mostly. That's the 6 days a week for $1,492 net. And I did that, and I would just spend most of my daytime in the truck sleeping, and then I would get out of the truck and I would go run around. I don't know, do my exercising and everything by the Levee Dike, Lewiston, Idaho. Both of those were per mile. Every other one is also per mile. Then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna relocate. And it was, by the time I relocated, it was in November, and I had one available. I would have gone to Colorado first, but I did. Ended up going to Salt Lake City instead. 841 is the station ID. All these are hub to hub basically, and this is the wild card position where I would go out as far as, you know, a station like Colorado, the more miles, like 539 to Aurora, or the other one, Magna, to Aurora, which is 551, just across the I-80 and down the I-25. Like that person in the mirror, go ahead, go around if you'd like, go ahead. Back, you wait the 10 hours to come back. That one, she kept being a micromanaging. It's a woman, of course. It's what their feelings are, is because the FedEx is pressing her to use the Motive camera front facing that would go off whenever I did wrong, is more of a detriment to any of the drivers doing it, because it only goes off when you do wrong, or it'll give false impressions. And I called her up. I said, by December 8th, I was calling her up saying that all the truck was safe. It was battery disconnects are off, after she had texted me from the restaurant saying, call me. And then I said, you know, I'll call your bluff. And I was already to my next job over the phone from the truck. I had called them up, and I was going out for the interview, and it was another transfer within FedEx, because my NVR pretty much is restricting me to FedEx at this time, because that's what accepts me, because I had 4 tickets within a year, almost 2 years ago, or almost 2.5 years ago, which is, most of them typically will review after 3 years, so whatever. And I told her, I said, in that same conversation, I said, since you like the camera so much, you can ask it nicely, and maybe it'll drive for you from now on. And that was the end of that one. And then I switched to the 820 station. Yeah, like I was saying, I went to the 820 station. That a contractor account, or whatever you want to call it, was involving Sierra Trading Post to take those to the Aurora station, which I was familiar with since I was already gone to Salt Lake City. I explained it to them. I said, yeah, I was good to go. And we were doing that, and we were doing Walmarts, and I was getting, it was Christmas, Thanksgiving time, so I was getting, 2 trips from Denver to Aurora and flipping back. And then on Sunday or whatever, I would get their finals, which is just 1 trip. And eventually I got, I said, it's rare for get $1,000 here, because not only did they do 4 days per weekend, I took a break in the middle of the week and never got a full logbook out of it. It's FedEx, so imagine that. That she didn't listen to my concerns about it, and I told her, after I was quitting, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go back to Salt Lake City, which is what I did, but that was a false promise, which is okay. I was okay with it because I kind of just ditched them, so they kind of ditched me, and because they picked somebody who was willing to do a team. And within that time, I took time off, and I went back. I went down the I-80 again, and then down to Pueblo, and I went down to Raton, and I went across to Dumas, dumbass Texas, Dumas, Texas, and I went across that way into Sweetwater to the I-20 and shot it almost all the way my entire trip to visit my brother in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then once I was done there, I had some contract promised for FedEx again, but only it didn't, was going to be to go to Rifle, Colorado, over the mountains out of the I-70 from the Henderson station, but he ended up not being able to add me, and then I eventually just stopped contacting him. After that, I went back to Eastern Washington. I was visiting, and I saw that it was running on my dike, and it was in the Columbia River Gorge. And then I I tried out Troutdale, and I found one who was hiring, and he was pretty good. He was almost as good as the one in Lewiston to do that. Only that's why the one in Lewiston's the best, because even though he canceled his trips, I still got the $1,000 because he was doing 70 cents per mile, which is probably easier for them. It's the higher cost of living situation. But yet another contract service provider instead of Colorado. Oregon is where we're at now. I didn't think I was gonna go back to the blue, chase the Snake River. I would go to the Troutdale station to Seattle, and then back down, and I would go to Mount Vernon, which is probably the best one. And then I went to Medford one time out of there, just the one, 286 one way, which is pretty good, and back. And then I would go to Bend, Oregon, but I got frustrated and I probably should have just kept going there. Didn't really like the area. But I could have just stayed there and maybe gotten a few days off, you know. He was nice to me. He didn't care about the camera. He probably saw the notification off. He was, you know, I could hear he was, like my mother's boss at the general store. It was an Indian guy, you know, he was pretty cool. And I told him that because they did that, and then I ended up back here in Salt Lake City. There for about a month, going all over, and then I was doing a solo. I just got talked into doing the team. I did that 2 trips because they said, oh, New Mexico or whatever, blah blah blah. And then I said, is it always going to be like that? Because I was threatening, you know. Said, put me on the solo, put me by myself. Then we were doing this one trip, and I saw how he was only giving me 46 cents per mile. He was only giving me 46 cents per mile, and I never got to 1,000 because every other day they didn't dispatch me, and I didn't, unlike at the last one when I was in Salt Lake City, I didn't really I called them up, even though I knew the answer was going to be, I still had to try. I still had to call up the line haul office to get them to dispatch me. He said, well, what trip are you on? And I said, I was on unassigned Route 4, and they said, oh, you're not going out today. And then I had this one trip to Vernon, Utah for 183 miles one way, and I was like, fuck, this unassigned route. So I was seeing how I was going to dispatch it at 2:30 in the morning, 2:43 in the morning. I called her up. I said, the line haul office, not my boss. This is just somebody who says that they're a dispatcher and they're not. I said, give me an Aurora trip or a Denver trip with this Vernon pup. And then they refused, and they kind of said it was fixed to me over the phone. So they talked over me, and that was the reason I used, and I'm here. And I left them now. I'm probably going to head back to Lewiston. I tried out an interview today for North Park to not use FedEx anymore, but we'll see if they accept me. I usually get told that their insurance won't accept me. And any other companies you can recommend that, you know, if they don't care about tickets on their license, is what I don't care about, because I never had my license suspended, never had it revoked, never been denied a license, never had any DWIs or anything. So yeah, best one was him, obviously. 6 days a week, you can't really beat that. Even though it was the same, you kind of get the Groundhog's Day syndrome or whatever. But it was in the nighttime. It was best. He was the best contract. He was the most fair. He gave 70 cents per mile too. He was the most easiest to deal with. Got other plans of trying to get the $50K saved, but at 26,000, I wasn't going to put up with all the situations. I thought it through in my head, and I thought it was going to be wrong. So why let it be postponed? Why milk it? We'll milk it for its worth. Not really. So we're going to always change it up. Sitting in the same spot, you know, a different spot. Who cares? They didn't care. So why would I care? I, you know, use that glitch that they have where you're able to change it, and here I am.